the Capezio or the Capezio Split. You might know this move by a different name. I think this is the one that I've heard it called most commonly, but I'm sure there's also other names. If you have other names, let me know. So for this one, you definitely should be comfortable getting into your ballerina. Start there. You want to be very comfortable getting into your ballerina. You do need to not only be able to get into a ballerina, but be able to get that top arm to where you can get the pull in your armpit to be able to grab that other leg. Okay, so if you're comfortable in a ballerina, you're able to get to here and you can't quite get it to that armpit, drop your chest down so you can create space and then engage through your bicep. Give a little pull up, tucking your elbow behind the pole. And then once you can tuck your elbow behind the pole, continue to pull until you can get it all the way into that armpit. Okay, so oftentimes we think of trying to drop down into it, which means we aren't actually pulling and we get stuck. So it's a combination of tilt to create space, and then actually there's a little pull up. The little bitty pull up helps us create that space and engagement that we need to do to get it to our armpit. It doesn't need to be all the way to your armpit. It could be maybe to your elbow. Okay, remember everyone's body's a little bit different: torso length, arm length, leg length, all those things. Okay, so for this, if you have to plan accordingly, flexibility wise, because this is definitely a move you're going to want to make sure that you warm up and stretch for amply. Whichever is your top hand in your ballerina, that is the same side leg that you're going to grab. Okay, so that means that has to be your more open hip flexor. Okay, so if you're ending up with your right hand high, you're going to want to make sure that you stretch your splits with your left leg in front and your right leg behind. Okay, so let's go over what's happening with the legs and the arms once we get into our ballerina. There are all different ways to do this Capezio. Remember, different bodies, different shapes, different styles, different preferences, all those. But I'm going to show you some of my favorite ways for doing this. First part was that hooking the top arm. When you go to grab your back leg, and granted, everyone's body's different, try not to grab your toes because you're going to find you can only kick your leg so far. If you try to kick it, it's actually going to kick it out of your hand. Okay, so even if maybe flexibility wise, you're like, all I can grab is my toes. Once you grab your toes, quite often you can give a little finger walk, finger walk, finger walk, at least until your hand can grab the top of your foot and then kick into it. Okay, same is true if you're wearing heels. I know a lot of people quite often will do moves with their heels on because it's easier to grab that stiletto than it is to grab your foot. If you are doing this in heels and you're able to grab that stiletto, try to walk your fingers down the stiletto. I actually find sometimes the stiletto part, grabbing the heel, walking it down, is harder than grabbing the toes and walking it down. But walk it down and try to get that hand to your ankle, because once you grab your ankle, you can actually engage your butt and really kick into that to get a better line and extension. Then if you're holding on to that heel, you try to kick into it and you quite often will kick the heel right out of your hand. Okay, so the extension of that back leg is twofold. One, it's awesome. It makes it look better. Two, it actually locks you into the move more. Okay, so maybe when you went into this initially, you just sort of had it here and it wasn't all the way into your armpit. But once you grab this leg and you kick your leg into it, it actually pulls you deeper into it. Okay, so it's a lot of booty. If the extension of that back leg and that glute engagement, what I'm talking about, is a new concept to you, or maybe a work in progress for you, I would highly recommend checking out my online flexibility program, where we work through a lot of exercises and things like that to help develop that strength. Because it's one thing to have a split on the floor when we're comfortable and when gravity is in our favor. It's a whole other thing to be able to extend and go into a split in a pole move. Okay, so if you're interested in learning more about that, check out the deets below. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening with the front leg. There are different ballerina ways. Sometimes people will do a ballerina and they'll only hook their foot. To be able to get to the Capezio, we need to have this leg completely around the pole. Okay, it doesn't have to be ankle, it could be just knee, but you're gonna have to have a little bit of a gap here to be able to put your hand in. Okay, and getting that leg to wrap more, for example, if you're only at your foot, you're probably not adding enough side crunch in your ballerina. Okay, so part of what helps us get deeper into the inner thigh in our ballerina is when we go into it, having a little more side crunch and side crunch so we can wrap that leg. If I don't side crunch enough, I can't get that leg all the way around. Okay, so if you're running into this problem, look at your ballerina and see, when I'm going to my ballerina, am I crunching enough through my obliques and my lats to create space so I can bring this leg through? Okay, so it is a side crunch. It also is an active flexibility thing. Once again, see the EV-Fit flexibility program. In this case, with that bottom leg, to be able to wrap it, it's more of an abduction or an opening, okay? And no, you don't have to have a center split, but it is an active engagement. If you're not actively engaging here, that leg comes straight in and ends up running into the pole, okay? So it's having that hip mobility, strength, and awareness to be able to bring that leg around to be able to hook. Okay, so if you're able to get at least even a tiny bit of this inner thigh on the pole, to be able to get that bottom arm into position, and you can do a Capezio with one hand. You'll see sometimes people just grab the back leg and that front arm is extended or holding onto the pole or whatever it is. Or depending on your entrance to the ballerina, maybe you had your hand down here and it just stays there. Okay, and that's fine too. Remember, there's all kinds of variations to different moves. But if you're getting to here and you can just barely hook this leg, but you'd like to have it hooked a little bit more, if you sink down, quite often you'll be able to bring this leg up. Okay, it just creates a little bit more space by bending down into it. Okay, so that's kind of a little, fun little tidbit there to help you get a little deeper into it. Because as much as you can extend that back leg, if that inside leg is stuck on the pole going down, your split's only going to go so far. Right? So let's talk about hand position with that front hand, or inside hand, I should say, but the hand that's to the front leg of that front split. Personally, I've found I prefer that hand to be a cup grip. And once again, this is a personal preference. So when I go into this, I'm in my ballerina. That hand, I have to lean down because otherwise my arms aren't going to make it. Granted, I do have long arms. I also have a really long torso. Okay, so if for some reason you're in this and you're like, I cannot get that hand down there, you need to lean down more to be able to get this hand in here. Okay, so I'm going to tilt myself down, thumb up, cup grip, sneak that hand right behind this knee, and then from there, then I can extend this leg. And I find for me, I'm able to extend out and do a deeper split here because I feel like when I extend my leg, it actually pushes my hand into the pole more, and I don't feel like I'm pushing myself out of it. Versus in contrast, I feel like when I go to a true grip, my leg pushes on my hand and starts to like peel my hand off. Okay. Once again, these are my personal feelings about it. Some of you might feel otherwise. Some of you might find that a true grip works better. Remember, we all have different range of motion, comfort, all those things. So if for some reason you swear by the true grip, awesome. I would encourage you to try the cup grip if you haven't before, because it could be, as much as the true grip was awesome for you, maybe the cup grip will be even more awesome. I don't know. So give it a try. And if you're like, nope, not working for me, great. Go back to your true grip. Okay. So we've got in our ballerina, crouch down, hand goes around the outside of this leg and hooks. Then you can extend this leg. Okay, it doesn't have to go around the outside. You'll see a lot of people have the hand here to the inside and they just extend the leg. Nothing wrong with that. I just find for me personally, as I'm doing that, when I extend the leg, sometimes my leg tends to drop a little bit and I just don't get to quite as deep of a split. Okay, so if you're trying to make your Capezio a deeper split or an over split, I find the hand underneath helps me. I'll actually, once I'm here, let my body sink down into it, which then pushes that leg up and takes me to a deeper split. Okay. The back leg, we already talked about. The pole is in the armpit, grab your leg, kicking into it. Okay, so we've gone over all these little tidbits. Let's look at it all together. You can get into your ballerina however you want to. This works on spin, this works on static, okay? Do you, whatever that is. You can do it in heels, not in heels, whichever. Okay, so key things to think about. The more side bend you have when you go into your ballerina, the easier it's going to be to get it into that armpit of that first leg or first arm, the top arm, and the deeper you're going to be able to get it into that inner thigh of that front leg or bottom leg. Okay, so ballerina, take it up, around, through, sink down. See how my torso drops? I'm pushing with the pole so I can bring it into my armpit. My hand circles, cup grip, back leg, grab, and extend. When you're ready to come out, release the back leg first, re-grab the pole, exit however you want to. So that is your Capezio. Little side note, perhaps it's a big note. If your split is not looking super splitty, ask yourself this: does your split look splitty on the ground? If your split is not splitty on the ground, it's definitely not going to look splitty up there. If you've not worked on grabbing a foot and kicking into it on the ground, it's going to be that much harder to start it up there. Okay. There is no secret sauce to flexibility. It's not a, oh, wait, you didn't have a split? Oh, okay. Pull on your ear, touch your nose and wiggle your booty, and suddenly you're going to have an oversplit. Doesn't matter if you couldn't touch your toes before. It takes a lot of work. I have not always had a split. I've had to work for my split, especially after knee reconstructions, dislocated hips, broken tailbones, all kinds of things. I've had to work very hard on my split. So everything that you see takes effort. Okay. So it's not going to magically do there. If you're looking at that and you're like, why doesn't my split like that? Ask yourself, are you stretching regularly? Okay. And also on that note, everyone's body is different. Okay. And even if your Capezio does not look the same as mine, it doesn't mean that it's not gorgeous and beautiful and amazing. Okay. They're all different shapes. It doesn't have to be a complete split to be amazing. It doesn't have to be an oversplit to be amazing. Okay. But if this is a move that you want to try, challenge yourself and put in the work to improve your flexibility, to improve your ballerina, to improve your side bend. All those things go into it. This is not an easy move. There are a lot of parts going on. Okay. But if you're Capezio, if you're not able to extend that back leg, it's a combination of your hip flexor flexibility and your glute strength to extend. Okay. If you're not extending the leg all the way, but you're like, I have a split on the ground, it's your booty. It's your booty not working. Okay. So if you want to be able to unlock that booty and the engagement to get into this move more, as I said earlier, check out my FLEXY online flexibility program. It's also included with the Polar program, all these same flexi drills that will help you work towards these moves, which then takes it from the Capezio to, your eagle, your cocoon, all different kinds of other foot grabs and things like that. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial breakdown of the Capezio. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. I would love to see all your Capezios, all shapes, all sizes, all flexibilities, all entrances, all exits, all the things. I want them all. So send them my way, post them, tag me, hashtag elizabethbfit, made me do it, made me do my Capezio. Let's see them.